He has his back on the ropes. Fortuna unloading big shots for Fortuna.
What's going on, fight fans? It's Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Rob Jarrell, and this is the preview to tomorrow's light heavyweight and lightweight matchups. One for a title, the other one should be an eliminator for a title. Going down on the DAZN, featuring Jojo Diaz taking on Javier Fortuna for the interim WBC lightweight title, and also a light heavyweight matchup featuring Zurdo Ramirez taking on Sullivan Barrera. At 175, this would be Gilberto Ramirez's third fight at 175 since moving up, and Sullivan Barrera is looking to bounce back from his previous loss to Jesse Hart. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the lightweight title matchup featuring Jojo Diaz taking on Javier Fortuna. This is an interesting matchup. The betting odds are saying that Jojo Diaz will take this fight in likely a unanimous decision. I can't really disagree with that too much, but this is a very dangerous fight, and it should have plenty of great action. Javier Fortuna is a hard-hitting southpaw. He's faced a lot of fighters. His only notable losses, if I'm not mistaken, is to Robert Easter and Jason Sosa, but he's come back with some great wins against Sharif Bogury, Antonio Lozado, and he had a great knockout versus Jesus Cuellar about 2 fights ago, and that was the only southpaw that he has fought probably within the last couple of years, whereas Jojo Diaz is very polished, very experienced against other southpaws. I think his last 4 or 5 fights were southpaws. If I look at his record now, his fight versus Rakhimov, which he had a draw in a very hard-fought matchup. He beat Tevin Farmer. He lost to Gary Russell. So all those guys were southpaws. Fortuna's a southpaw, so this should be right within his wheelhouse. But the thing about Fortuna is what I've noticed that he doesn't really use his jab. It's usually a blinding or a throwaway jab against orthodox fighters, but against southpaw, he uses it more traditionally because he wants to fight from the outside, get on the inside, and really hammer home those looping punches. And that is where his weakness will be, because he will throw those looping punches and he will drop his hands in order to do so. With Diaz, he's there to be hit, but he's got somewhat sharper punching, and he has more variation on his punch selection. So he's going to vary up his punches upstairs and downstairs. In the Tevin Farmer fight, he did a good job of throwing the left to the body, the looping left and the straight left, and then getting on the inside, fighting for position, and really letting his hands go in tight punches. Whereas Javier Fortuna, he's going to get as much as he can on those shots. A lot of the times they're very looping. He'll throw the jab, throw a wide right, throw a wide left upstairs, and try to finish off with a straight right. When he took out Cuellar, that's what you saw, a great right hand. I'm sorry, not a great right hand, a great left hand. He threw the right hook. So that's my mistake. But with this, I think there's, like I said, it's going to be plenty of action. There are going to be some spots where both guys are going to be hurt. I think someone may get cut in this fight. I think Diaz, he got cut in that Tevin Farmer fight, and Fortuna, I think his last fight against, or one of his previous fights, what was his name? I want to say it was Lozado, where he actually had a head clash with Lozado, and that opened up a gash over his eye. So I'm looking for a previous cut to open up over Diaz and not over Fortuna. Neither guy are really movers. I mean, Fortuna will fight from the inside. He'll try to jab his way in and land those looping shots, but he's not really a big mover. He doesn't really show a lot of athleticism. I can see this being in the middle of the ring, and we'll have to see who takes whose shots. Will Diaz's output be able to overwhelm Fortuna's power shots? And with Fortuna, he likes to take long layoffs during the course of the fights. He puts so much on that you could visibly see that he's taking a break during the fight. And then he'll try to explode for several exchanges. So it'll be interesting. I'm actually picking Jojo Diaz in a split decision win with this fight. I don't think either guy will be knocked down. I think defense will go out the window by the second half of the fight, and I think that's where Jojo Diaz will pick up steam over the course of that fight. So that's my pick, Jojo in 12 rounds. I would think that if it ends in KO, that's going to be for Fortuna, and if it does happen, it's probably going to be within 8 rounds. But I'm looking for a split decision win for Diaz. So let's move on to the Ramirez versus Barrera fight. This is an interesting matchup because one, Gilberto Ramirez, who is undefeated, has some good wins, but his competition hasn't been but so great. He has 2 notable wins over Jesse Hart, which he looked great in, but I think one of those ended in a majority decision. So Jesse Hart was surprised by the first fight, not really surprised by the second one, but Gilberto Ramirez was able to outfight him and outbox him. He should outbox Sullivan Barrera, who actually took his last fight. He took his last loss in his last fight versus Jesse Hart. And that's a fight where I would say that Barrera was expected to win, but Jesse Hart just came to fight. And Jesse Hart is looking to probably fight Gilberto Ramirez one more time and try to get revenge on those 2 losses. I wouldn't be surprised not moving on with Jesse Hart, but I can see this looking a lot like that Jesse Hart fight because Barrera, while a good fighter, good Cuban fighter, guy with great skills, great size, and good fundamentals, being the great Cuban amateur like most of the Cuban professional fighters these days, he seems to not be as motivated in his fights, and I think this will be a mental thing for him. Andre Ward, though, there was no he shouldn't definitely hold his head low for that fight. He came into that fight, made a great account of himself. The Befall fight, I think he could have done himself more justice in that fight as far as how he fought, because he seemed very robotic, not really assertive, and he really didn't have a great versatility to his output. He seemed to just settle for the jab, moving forward, and then trying to land a big right, which he would throw himself off balance in a shot that Bivol could see coming a mile away. I would probably have him work on something more dynamic. Gilberto is the taller man in this fight, but he's not necessarily the bigger guy in this fight. And he's going to use his southpaw stance to jab in and really fight from a distance. But what he tends to do is abandon the jab at times, both hands up, and take his height away to try to almost stalk his opponent. That could work in his favor in this fight, but he is susceptible to the uppercut. Jesse Hart was able to land several uppercuts, but not with the force needed to take away that straight left hand and right hook from Ramirez. Ramirez will probably do the same thing versus Barrera, and Barrera should be able to, or should look to catch him squared up when he's on the inside and land a right uppercut left hook, or even a counter hook, but I don't think he has the ability to do so. Like I said, he can be somewhat predictable, somewhat robotic, and really fall back on that amateur style. And being that he is 39, he is old. He is older than I thought he was. I'm 37. He's 2 years older than me, and I'm still surprised about that. So in this fight, we have to see how much he has left in the tank against Ramirez. Ramirez should outbox him. Hakeem pointed out that Barrera's going to be in front of him all night. He's going to possibly push the action, impose his size and his will on Gilberto Ramirez and make it interesting through the course of 12 rounds. But my question is, can he maintain form? Can he show a little bit more versatility, be a little bit more dynamic on his punching? Or is he just going to settle for that 1-1-1-2 and the occasional check hook? I don't know. It's kind of hard to call with some of the Cuban fighters. A lot of them, like I said, are extremely skilled and extremely disciplined, but almost to a detriment. So that's all I got for you today. What do you guys think? Tell us in the comment section down below. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all Capital Combat. You can even hit us up at Gmail, Capital Combat.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and gone. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game.
Subscribe button and the bell icon so you can get the latest and greatest from Capital Combat. And until next time, fight on.